This time we will have a look at the timeout annotation. And as the name said, or says, you can make a timeout with it. And this can be really helpful if you have like an endpoint or a method that you need to call that you need to get a response in time from it, or otherwise it's worthless, or you don't want to let your client wait forever. So you might rather abort the request.
Okay.
And maybe again go with a fallback.
So you would expect an answer in a certain time frame.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it, then the answer won't be. So you can just cut it off and tell, okay, went into a timeout.
Yeah. Nice. Or maybe if we again think of a recommendation system. The client asks me for a recommendation, maybe for a search phrase of the user. If I cannot deliver you that in a second, or I would say in a half a second, then it's probably worthless anyway. Because the client, the user typed something else, or he wanted to click somewhere else, or he's annoyed already that it's taking so long. So in that case, we might want to fall back again to a default recommendation.
Okay.
And maybe retry the call later again. This can also help if you make this timeout that you reduce the load for the other system, because we in that case we don't retry forever or so, but we just say, okay, you can't manage in a certain time frame, then that's okay. We can live with that.
Okay. Then let's jump into it.
Yeah. Again, we want to have a look at our cookie example. And this time...
So let's explain it again.
Yeah. We have our cookie resource, our awesome cookie service, where we can get freshly baked cookies. But this cookie baking process is a bit unreliable. We might have the problem that we don't have any ingredients left. And we might have the problem that we forget about the cookies and don't pull them out of the oven in time, and then they are burned. So because we are very unreliable in our timings, we added a retry. So we try 3 times. If ingredients are out, okay, we don't have to retry. There's nothing more we can do. But if we still fail after 3 times, we can also use the fallback annotation, which is another SmallRye not reactive messaging. That's a different package. It's SmallRye Fault Tolerance annotation. So what we want to do now is this can take some time. Let's say we retry 3 times for a second, but we are a bit, we don't want to wait that long. We say our client at most waits like 1500 milliseconds. So this is again just an annotation. We put it here. And if it takes longer than 1500 milliseconds, then we abort. And if we test this, just start up the service. It has to be said, in our case, this makes not too much sense because we retry here and abort on the other side already. So in that case, it doesn't make so much sense, but you can imagine you just call some REST API and then this REST API takes a long time to respond. So we have started our service and we call it, and there's a new cookie, so we were lucky. We got a new cookie. Here's an old cookie, ran into the fallback. And now we get a super ugly exception.
Super ugly.
Yeah, we didn't add a exception mapper for that. So that's why we get the full exception. But what we see here, we got the timeout exception. So this is just a fault tolerance exception. And yeah, so we tried to bake a cookie. it burned. Then after a second, we retried that. It burned again. So we would wait again for another second.
Okay, let me see what the timing. Okay.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just swapped over to the next second. So, and now we would try again after the next second, but during that time, after 1.5 or a half second later, we abort. It's done. There's nothing we can do. We need to return to the client and tell the client something. We can tell the client it failed. We should throw better error than 500 probably. But it would also be reasonable maybe to tell the client, okay, I cannot serve you at the moment. It's too much for me. Let's ask me another time. But what we again can do is add like a fallback. Get cookie fallback. It doesn't have to be named like that. It's just that I'm creative with names. Here we return again a string. We go to the get cookie fallback, and maybe here is your money back. So maybe we return that, or we return some default recommendations or something like that. Again, we could also specify here in which case we want to do that. So, for example, in the no ingredients left case, we might want to give the client the idea, okay, there's no ingredients left. But in the case of a timeout exception, then we actually want to go there. Timeout. So, okay.
Whoa, wait. Okay, you have a fallback and you skip on timeout exception. Okay,
yeah.
So.
No, sorry.
You don't want to skip on, right?
Yeah, I want to apply.
Oh, okay, now I get it. Okay.
Yeah, I want to whitelist this exception. Thanks.
You're welcome. Just thought there was an error on my side, but okay, get it.
Just testing my moderator if he's paying attention.
Yeah, I had to do some moderator stuff, but I'm back now and I'm paying attention. I see you.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay.
So let's try again. New cookie worked and an old cookie worked. Come on, I cannot be that lucky.
So now, wait, I think. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the chance.
Yeah, the timeout won't hit. That's the
problem.
Okay.
Timeout won't hit because
okay.
I don't retry often enough.
Yeah.
Because I was just too lucky.
But actually, you have a delay of 1 second.
Yeah, on the retry. So one retry would work.
Okay. So it always went through on the first thing. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
On the first thing or on the retry. So it had two chances.
Okay. Gotcha.
Timeout. Here's your money back. So we can have a look again. So we tried to bake a cookie, it burned. We tried again, it burned again. And then we aborted because of the timing.
Let's see at the timing again without my face in it.
Yeah, again on the second switch.
Okay.
So this is almost a 13. Then we have at 14 the retry.
That's almost a second afterwards, and then you have a second and 14.
Half a second
later. And there you fall into the fallback. Okay.
Yeah. One important note: these retry, they also add a jitter by default.
Jitter.
Jitter.
What? Okay.
So it's not applying a second by default, but it's applying a second plus minus 200 milliseconds with random plus minus 200 milliseconds.
Okay.
This is again to mitigate like a coordinated attack. by accident, because you spread out your calls. So maybe
okay.
in 1/2 of a second, the service was not reacting. And everybody that was calling in that 1/2 a second will call now in a second again, in exactly the same second again. So you would have a real bad load peak again. And then the next second afterwards again.
Clever.
So this makes it that you don't call it in exactly a second, but in a range from 800 to 1200.
Nice.
So it spreads it out, and then because afterwards you would again delay it with a different delay, so it spreads it out even more, and you get a wider but flatter curve over time, or with the amount of retries.
Nice.
So this helps to mitigate.
Just because the jitter could be reducing the time or extending the time.
Yeah, it's plus minus.
I already saw that you can just as an experiment, you can already define the unit. So if you set a bigger unit in the jitters than you have in the delay, then it would actually not, like, it couldn't go into the future, right? Couldn't send you an answer before you send the request. So
negative effective delays will be 0.
Okay.
So then it will just retry it immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But of course,
that's very
makes
cool.
more sense to have a smaller jitter than you have a delay. But this again, it's configured by default to sensible value, and it just helps to mitigate this concentrated attack that you might create by accident.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of things I want to implement on my backend, but I'm of course not using Quarkus.
That's
not
maybe
yet.
a mistake.
I tried. I know. Maybe the third time I will write it, or the fourth time I will write it, I will actually use Quarkus. But for now, I'm sticking with the language I know at best. So, but this is nice.
Yeah, and it's basically for free. All you have to do is you go to your Gradle or Maven dependencies, and you add this Quarkus SmallRye Fault Tolerance, and it works.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
So how often have you used this?
It's same with the retry. I have some, at the moment I have some customer projects where I would use it, but it's different technology. It's Node.js.
Okay.
And I miss it really there. Especially this nice declarative way of just adding stuff like that. It's telling you what's happening, and you read it, you know about it, and it's not like promise stuff where you can also add the timeout or so, but it's just for free. It's integrated. It's working. Yeah.
Nice. Very, very cool. Very cool. Okay, let's recap.
Yeah. So we just had a look at the timeout exception, or not timeout exception, timeout annotation of the SmallRye React fault tolerance package. And it just adds a timeout to your method. You can specify it, and if that timeout runs out, then you get a timeout exception. And what you can then do is either handle it with a try catch in the caller side, or you can add a fallback and fall back to a reasonable value. And that can help you to make your API very responsive and give guarantees when it will answer. This might be very interesting for some certain use cases in your clients.